Welcome to the March to a Million podcast with Greg DuPont, founder of the Wealth Solutions Network. In this podcast, Greg shares his journey to positively impact 1 million lives by creating an army of financially minded attorneys who embrace an expanded role in their clients' lives. Greg and his guests challenge the status quo in the legal profession and the financial services industry, and show attorneys how they can improve their lives, provide greater value to their clients, and experience greater professional satisfaction. Join us in this movement and strengthen your business by learning how to solve your clients' most pressing financial problems.
Hello and welcome to another March to a Million podcast with Greg DuPont. Now, we have spent a lot of time over the last episodes really laying the foundation to what March to a Million is, what Greg has built, and why it's so important for you. But there's one thing that we really haven't spent a lot of time talking about, which is the need to make sure that you're recharging your batteries as an entrepreneur and that you have very good focus and direction with what you want to be when you grow up. And so Greg today, in the Greg fashion, emailed me early this morning and said, "Hey, Matt, we're going to change directions of the podcast today. We're going to talk about personal growth and development." So why don't you set the stage, brother?
Yeah, Matt. So, I'm a student of self-development, as you are, as we shared before. And I looked at what's coming ahead with me and WSN and my increasing role with my people as a coach. And I decided that I do Dan Sullivan's strategic coach program, and and a lot of the processes that we've learned through there is what I've built my processes for WSN to be able to make it more easy to adapt for attorneys in their practice. And I decided that there was a couple of things that were missing for me. I decided what I needed to do. It's been a bucket list of mine because I first came across Tony Robbins when I was in my early 30s, and it changed my trajectory with personal power and whatever I had the DVDs and all that stuff back then. I always wanted to go to one of his live events. I did the Unleash the Power Within virtual a couple of years ago. And I decided I was going to carve out time in my world to do his one time a year Date with Destiny experience. That ended a couple of days ago. And so I wanted to share, kind of that. I want to share just some of the science of achievement that is so unknown, that it's so important. The mindset piece, regardless of where it's coming from, Robbins' world or Sullivan's world, whatever. And we're trying to push through members of WSN, the March to a Million. And it's amazing the difference that mindset makes on this.
The two people that you just quoted, right, which would be Tony Robbins and Dan Sullivan, one of the greatest things about their systems is it's research-based, right? Now, Tony wasn't hugely research-based when he first started. It was just this gargantuan human who was wonderful, a great speaker and a great motivator. And then he really switched gears, right? He switched gears into really looking at the research of the science of self-improvement. And I think Dan Sullivan has also, with all of his books and all of the different things that he's created over the last over 40 years or however long he's been doing it right now, they're both really relying on the research. But let's talk about Date with Destiny, right? So you and I were talking about, I did live UPW Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. We did it in Chicago. We walked across hot coals, stayed up all night, jumping around and screaming and yelling and meeting people and all of that stuff. And it was really, really an unbelievably intense experience. Talk about what you gleaned from yours.
So that holds true. It was 6 days of total immersion. And unlike the Unleash the Power, which is more of realizing that you can be so much more than you are, which is true. That was my experience with that, although I did that virtual. As a matter of fact, that was one of the things that pushed me into creating WSN. That experience.
Cool.
Yeah. But with this Date with Destiny, it's learning kind of your limiting story and fills you up with data and then breaks you down physiologically, and kind of works towards reprogramming. But it's been a cool experience for me, because simultaneous with that, I bet on Russ Brunson's latest adventure, The Secrets of Success, and he's republishing all of these original manuscripts from the late 1800s, early 1900s, that were the people that are the research that so many people are over the last century have built their business off. And early on, it's easy to say, hey, this is all woo-woo stuff, but I've dealt with this long enough now, being mindful of it, not just the last week, that there's real juice here. And as you said, privately, you used to be a coach of this stuff, and I'm sure you've experienced just how these age-old principles, hell, they go back to the Stoics, right?
That's
just
right.
a matter of who do you want to get your flavor from?
That's right.
And these underlying the elements of being successful, it does. You can't ignore the results of people that have followed them over the years.
Yeah, going as a philosophy major in college, going back to Plato's Euthyphro or any sort of Aristotle's principles, right? That's really, and then you continue to go on, and the one person you didn't talk about in our kind of before we hit record here is Napoleon Hill. Like I still think that, man, Think and Grow Rich was an unbelievably eye-opening thing for me. And the funny thing is if you go to the Napoleon Hill website, which I think is napoleonhill.com or thinkandgrowrich.com, you can download all of his speeches. And it's like 13 hours of Napoleon Hill actually speaking in front of people. And Greg, you think and Grow Rich is great? You should hear him talk. He's a little off kilter, which makes it even more entertaining. But this is when he dives into when he was meeting with Henry Ford and, really getting into the nitty gritty on what these unbelievably successful, focused people achieved. And I think that's one of the big difference between what a lot of the coaching programs that are out there is what Napoleon specifically did was he was just the mouthpiece of, right? He never touted that he was successful, right? And so I always thought that was fascinating. Did you go down the rabbit hole of Think and Grow Rich at any point?
So interestingly enough, part of Russ Brunson's new package, and I'll put a link in the show notes to this new thing of his, The Secrets of Success, is this morning I was reading an unpublished manuscript of Napoleon Hill's, like his overview of his life.
Oh, wow.
And the passage this morning that resonated is from his initial conversation. For those that don't know the story is that he goes to Carnegie, and Carnegie challenges him to chronicle the laws of success. Mm-hmm. And he quotes Carnegie from that initial meeting of saying, and I don't have it exact, but he said that the colleges and universities teach you everything you need to know about the techniques but they never teach you anything about what it takes to be successful. And that was his charge to Napoleon Hill, to go forth and develop the curriculum for how to be successful, taking the college book knowledge and translating that into success.
Yeah.
Man. And when we look at Tony Robbins' example, this is a guy that came from nothing, literally nothing, and very challenged to hear his story. And following these age-old teachings, because this is what he studied, mm-hmm. he's worth $1 gazillion now. And those stories are over and over and over and over. And and when you actually are hanging out with people that are following this stuff, and this is WSN, hopefully people are following this stuff, mm-hmm. you realize that it's more than bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not just bullshit, right? There's something there. And it's amazing to think back all these years, because part of that group, that triumvirate, or that core group that he started with, those were the leading minds that we were thinking of, historically.
Yeah.
The board, when the presidents, Wilson was there as part of his, Hoover was there, all these people that were part of that kind of mastermind, right?
Yeah. Well, I like what Brunson's done, Robbins has done, Sullivan's done, and there are other people who are lesser. Brene Brown is another good example. And what's important is you need to resonate with whatever the spin is, right? So all of them put their own, secret sauce on top of this. And just so I don't mean to sound crass, but this might come across as crass. They're all saying the same damn things. It's just, how do you absorb it in the most important way, or the most applicable way for you to actually implement it? Because dude, when I went to UPW, there was probably, I don't even know how many people were there. Thousands, 10,000 people. It was insane how many people were there. And, here's the deal. 98% of them left there and nothing changed, right? Because they didn't want to do the work. And this is why I think this is such a fun thing to talk about in the context of WSN and March to a Million, is because you can go through the training, right? Greg, you can teach in a estate planning attorney how to do all this stuff, right? It's just like the academic thing that, Napoleon Hill was charged with. Look, you can provide, which you do, great information for estate planning attorneys to implement this in, but they have to do the work. And that's the difference between what we've always known as good to great, right? There is a difference. You all can be good and still be very, very successful, but some of you want to be great. And by taking what you've learned and then adding all of the traits of success on top of that is really the key to go from good to great.
We are, by virtue of being attorneys in North America and professionals in North America, we're already in the top 1% of the world, right? But somebody, myself, others that joined WSN, we're actually trying to get to the top 0.001, right? And this is why I decided that I was going to invest a week of my life in this. Just, what are those little subtle changes that you need to make? What are the things that may have held you back in the past? And what do you need to kind of rewire? What new habits do you need to build on to become who you want? As a matter of fact, I think I one of your recent podcasts, I think you guys were talking about the power of habit and all that stuff well. Yeah. And just being able to hardwire some of that stuff into your world because you're trying to achieve levels that are not common.
So share some of the nuggets, brother. So you just spent a week, right? Studying with probably one of the biggest masters of our time, not a guru, which is a great presentation. So what are some of the things that you gleaned both personally and professionally?
So one core thing that he kept mentioning over and over again, or at least it kept registering over and over again, is breaking things down into patterns. And that's what we do at WSN. We're showing you the patterns that are there in your own practice, and then you apply this. He uses these patterns to not be your guru, but to how to interact with people to help them get clear on things or see things from a different angle. And it's all, you recognizing the patterns and what do you apply to that pattern? You don't need to know all of the stuff, okay? But A, B, C, D, and E, put the right ingredients in the right order, then you get the results predictably, almost certainly in these situations. So that was really, it hit home, resonated with exactly where I am and what I'm doing and trying to do for members of WSN. Because if we can put it to a pattern, an easily recognizable pattern, then all of my learnings with regard to finance, they don't need to have it. Tony doesn't need to have all of the learnings that the academics have of NLP and all the stuff that he uses to get his results. He just knows if I do this, I do this, I do this, I'm going to get this result. So that was definitely enlightening. Then on a personal level, you know, I think I listen to your podcast too much, Matt. If I can, right?
I appreciate that,
think,
brother.
yeah, I think. Yeah, by the way, what's that podcast, Matt?
It's the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast.
There we go. I'll give you a shameless plug.
Hey, I'll take it, brother.
Which, by the way, to those who are listening, is the top podcast for marketing and for financial advisors. Right? It's enlightening. So, anyways, you know, we've talked about Donald Miller. You talked about Donald Miller, the hero's journey, and all of that. And going through this process in that environment that they create deliberately with all of the noise and exhaustion and all that stuff, and having a conversation about my hero's journey, what's been going on in my world, made me realize that my first movie is now done. That was everything that I needed to do and experience to become what I am now, to lead WSN. Now that movie's done. I'm doing my sequel right now. Yeah. Taking what I've learned from there, learning new things, building new things into a different journey, different challenges, and the bigger the obstacles, the bigger the villains in the story, Darth Vader, right? The more that it pushes you and challenges you to grow. And that's what the hero's journey is all about.
Yeah. So since you have been on this path of personal growth and development for quite a while, when did you see results? So, you know, people will go to Unleash the Power Within, which is 4 days, or, you know, Date with Destiny, which is 6 days. There's all sorts of retreats all over the place. How long did it take for you to really realize and start implementing these principles into your personal growth and development journey?
So I've been studying this stuff for 2 decades, right? Maybe more if I go back and figure it out when I started. And the interesting thing is these things have all become wired in my brain because I've spent so much time immersing myself in it. And I can look back at different points where different things kicked in. But in all candor, it really wasn't until the UPW experience that I felt it. And specifically, you know, that took the book learning, the intellectual learning, and combined it with the emotional impact and physiology that he talks about. And then I knew things had shifted for me, and you know, everything had been growing real well up until that point. And different things linked, you know, as part of it, but things did take off, and that's why, you know, when I decided to commit to this, I feel like I'm at this beginning of this exponential growth curve, and I wanted to get rid of any existing head trash that might stop that. And so, you know, there's all these things that you learn along the way. You know, like you said in your podcast about the habit, you know, that was something that I had coaching on last February, outside of that world that really resonated. It's like, oh, okay, these are the things that I need to build upon. I'd read that book before, but you know, it's that saying in the coaching world, right? When the student's ready, the teacher will come.
Yeah.
And you just, the more that you're mindful of this and you're paying attention to these things, then you see the opportunities that come before you.
You know, that quote always makes me giggle for a couple of reasons. One, because it sure as hell has happened in my life, right? Where you know, all of a sudden this openness, this receptivity happened with my own personal and professional growth, and somebody did appear. But I do have to say that there have been a lot of times those people appeared. I wasn't ready. I really wasn't ready. And you know, it's interesting. So my whole path on all of this really was when I started studying under Ron Carson, and I saw his exponential growth, and I started watching his discipline and really his mindset and things like that. And that's when I started chasing the rabbit. So that was in 2006 for me. So you've been at this game much longer than I had. But I absolutely think it's vital, right? If you're truly going to help somebody achieve a mission like March to a Million, right? Or if you're going to fundamentally change the way that you're an estate planning attorney and you're running your practice to really, truly serve your clients. And then on top of that, be wildly successful because of that, you have to be prepared for that shift. I mean, this is a shift. You are going to have the opportunity by following these systems to double, triple, potentially even quadruple your overall income, and also change the relationships with the people that you have to work with. And Greg, you went through the mental journey to prepare yourself for that exponential growth. And now you're starting to see what we at Proudmouth call escape velocity. That exponential curve of growth is only going to continue to get steeper, faster, and harder to manage. So I'm challenging you here with this question, which is, how are you going to keep this together, brother? Because I mean, you've got the inaugural classes done, right? Or I mean, they're in, right? They're working through stuff. Momentum is happening, right? Because those 10 people are going to tell 10 people are going to tell 10 people. We know that. How are you going to go ahead and maintain the leadership, the strength, and the focus needed to really help people with this March to a Million?
That was part of the reason why I invested 6 days. To give me the tools to keep balance, and between that and the ongoing learnings with strategic coach and other tools that are at my disposal, and using them, right? That's what is my plan, to be able to do that. So I look forward. It's one thing with 10, but when I get to the levels I intend to get to with hundreds, we have to always be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of the demand to be able to do what is most important, which is to live my life the way I want to live it and serve others.
Right. And serve others. So being able to give yourself that gift is a permission that a lot of professionals don't. I mean, you just said something that was very powerful there that I don't want to gloss over, that you want to be able to live the life that you want to live, right? Having that to be a philosophical foundation of what you've built at WSN is very important. And I want people to understand that that opportunity through the system will also be given to you because of the freedom that you're going to be able to have by fundamentally changing what you do every freaking day, right? All right. So if you were going to go ahead and distill, let's say 3 major takeaways. So our audience right now is holding on with bated breath of the 3 major things that you took away from your date with destiny with Tony Robbins that you want all of the WSN members and listeners to know. What would those 3 things be?
You can design your future. You must design your future.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you set your intention, answers, tools come your way. I'm going to share this story because it's incredibly powerful, but I think it's illustrative of the fact that we really don't know shit.
Okay. That's my life's mantra, brother, but keep going.
A lot of this gets into the subconscious and the woo-woo, and over time I've grown to be more accepting of that than I ever would have thought I would have been, right? Because I'm a logical guy. As lawyers, we get taught logic, and if it ain't on paper, it don't exist, right? So I'm sitting there for this 6 days, and there were 2,500 people in the studio, quote unquote, at the convention center, and they broke this down into teams of 50 after the first night, and then the team kind of stays with you. But I after the first couple of days, I had this one lady that kind of kept getting next to me, and she was a real short lady, and I could sense that she was really working through some personal issues throughout this whole thing. I'm there I'm gonna fucking take over the world, and she was there trying to take care of her own world.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And I was kind of put off every once in a while as she was there, just human nature, right? And then the last day she sits next to me again, and she says, Greg, looks like, we're partners here today. I'm like, okay. She says, I remembered your name because that's my brother's name. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then as we go through some exercises, she shares with me, what has been the cause of the pain that I was feeling from her. And it was incredible grief. Mom had died, dad had died, and all that. And she was really wrestling with that. And she tells me this story that she was walking the beach a while ago, because she's got this necklace, and she was always upset that she would call out to mom and never get anything in response, because she was really wrestling with this. And she said, Mom, if you're listening, just give me a sign. And so lo and behold, she goes to this restaurant later that afternoon, and she finds on the floor of the bathroom there this necklace that she showed me she was wearing. And she looks at it, and it's got this little symbol on it that she couldn't figure it out. So she looks it up. And the symbol represents the pathway between this world and the next.
All right.
And part of the you had your fire walk when you did the UPW. Part of the end of this is kind of letting go of whatever that story is that was blocking you. Obviously hers was her tremendous grief. And here is this 4'0" cherubic lady, surrounded by myself at 6'4" and two other guys. That one guy was a college football player, and he was my height. The other guy was not much more. But in the safety that she felt from us there, she was able to let go of this. And just the relief and the joy from that whole experience, and so just the whole cosmic shit about that, right? What are the chances of 1 in 2,500? She's next to me. I remind her of her brother, and this is all part of her healing. So this is the world that we don't really know about, this whole subconscious thing, and it's out there. How we use it, all this old, Napoleon Hill stuff and all that. They speak of it as being laws of nature, just like the laws of gravity. You can choose to listen to it and guide by it, or you can ignore it and not take advantage of it. So I choose to learn and use. How about you?
I call it the wind. So I've talked about this for 10, 15 years now. But so when I was young, I would turn and face the wind, and the wind would blow really hard at me, and I would get really beat up, and I wouldn't go very far, and I was just exhausted, right? And then at one point in my life, I turned around, and I was like, let's see where the wind takes me. And so I put the wind to my back. Now, I still course correct, and I still do what I can to make sure that I'm navigating, but I trust in the wind. I let the wind blow me in different directions, and sometimes it's scary, and sometimes I don't know why, but the why always appears later. I think that there have been a lot of really bastardized versions of what you're talking about, which is really unfortunate. The idea of you are going to attract what you want to attract. If your mind is right, your intentions are clear, and you understand where you want to go, those things appear to you, and you can spiritually define them in any way that you want, Greg. And that's why I call it the wind, because I'm not trying to push anybody away. You can really believe whatever you want. Just trust in the freaking wind, right? But I think when you open yourself up and you get a glimpse of what the possibilities are to have that openness, this goes all the way back to, Confucius, the Tao Te Ching, what the Buddha taught about early teachings of Coptic Christians. I mean, if you look at all of those sorts of things, it's that sort of acceptance, awareness, and understanding that all of them talk about. It's exactly what you're experiencing right now, what you experience with that woman. And there's learning for you there too, bro, right? I mean, that's the thing. Anytime anybody reveals themselves to you, part of that is a mirror of who you are in your soul. And seeing that is a really, really powerful thing. Can be scary, but it can be really powerful. So I know that you've had lots and lots of coaches because you're a personal growth and development person. That's a huge part of who you are and why you've been so successful. Let's, as we wrap up today's show, what do you see in the future of WSN as being able to have a coaching component to this to make sure that all of the WSN members are going to be able to stay on track and focused to truly build this practice and help us march to 1 million?
So first and foremost, the culture of WSN is coaching centric. I mean, it is, because that is essentially what we are doing with our clients. And that's what's setting us apart from the estate planning attorney down the street. We are taking this active role. We're asking questions that they're not being asked. We're coming from a perspective of delivering value and grace and all that is not coming from the estate planning attorney in the ivory tower downtown that's charging the same amount that you're charging. It's what distinguishes you. And it is, part of the culture that I try to create throughout the personal interactions with the client, with the members of WSN, and our ongoing our conference calls and those kind of things. And again, that's why one of the reasons why I'm doing this is so I can become better at it myself, so I can share it with others, and continue to help them learn how to coach and grow and improve their lives and improve the lives of their clients.
Rising tide, brother. You said it earlier, right? Rising tide truly does lift all boats. And that's what everybody's talking about. And when you surround yourself with great people, great things happen. And you've built an amazing organization here. If I don't know how they wouldn't know about this, but where should they go if they want to know more about you or WSN?
So go to www.joinwsn.com, and that'll be your gateway to all things WSN.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, personal growth and development is a vital thing if you want to truly be successful. Don't think you have to do it on your own. And most importantly, you can't, right? You are only going to be strong as the people that you have surrounding you who are willing to lift you up in the positions that you needed to be lifted when you are ready to be lifted. Even it might seem a little soon for you. A lot of times those people know better than you because they see things within you that you don't see within yourself. Greg sees things within the estate planning attorney community that will allow them to truly serve their clients in a very different way, which is what WSN is about. And please join the organization, support it, download the resources, go to joinwsn.com so you can help us with our goal to march to 1 million. It's Matt Halloran for Greg, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Thank you for listening to the March to 1 Million podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available, and get in touch with our team by visiting our website at www.wealthsolutionsgroup.biz, or give us a call at 614-432-8065. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wealth Solutions Network. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice from qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have.